during training we would give them quite a heavy conditioning block, so they're in fatigue already, and then go about some skill level or some actions, or doing a little bit of 15 on 15 where they're trying to make the correct decisions when they are tired. And the more that you replicate that, hopefully that helps eventually the decision making when the player comes to being on the field. So under intense pressure, when there's a lot at stake, if you've done enough of that and replication at training, then hopefully you can get the right decisions on the field when the players are under pressure. There's a number of factors about selection of team. You're looking at experience of certain players, and how many caps they've had, and then you're looking at combinations. Form obviously is pretty important as well. And sometimes gut feel as much as anything, and then we're looking at the analysis and looking at players and trying to get the right blend, and picking this team for the team for the first test, and you want players that have obviously been playing on form, but sometimes you pick a player who is the glue and he holds everything together, and the All Blacks, I know on occasions have players that they feel are really important to them that aren't always the star players, but they're the glue. And we feel like at the moment we've got some players that are exceptional in terms of eye-catching and able to do the things of brilliance, and then players that hold the thing together and just do the basics well, don't make mistakes, and their numbers are good in terms of the number of rucks they might hit or the number of tackles they make, and their work rate. They don't do the flashy stuff, but it's just trying to get a balance right between the stars and the people who hold things together. Yeah, it's a little bit of both in terms of the experience and form. We had a really tough decision with in this game with Alan Jones and Mario Itoje in terms of both of them quality players, and we decided for this match, and things may change later in the tour. We've gone with a little bit of experience in terms of a player knowing that he has to play well because he's got a youngster breathing down his neck, and as coaches sometimes those are the things that you do, and both outstanding players, and so sometimes that experience can count in terms of a player knowing that he has to go out there and perform and against a youngster who's still learning his trade, but is going to be an outstanding player in the future. And it's a bit of a feel sometimes, and you can't always, players sometimes come to you and afterwards and want to know why they've been left out, and as a coach you don't always have the decisions or the answers in terms of giving that feedback. Sometimes just about the feel, about your own experience and the past and what's worked for you, and just trying to make what you think is the right call. I think it's just with the amount of information that you have and on hand, it's just it's get a balance between what you feel as a coach and using the data as terms of a backup. Does it support what you think yourself, and then just making sure that you do look at the numbers, and we're constantly looking at the feedback and getting the information. I mean, every morning the players do monitoring. We take their weights, how well they've slept, what their moods are like, energy levels and those things, and that's a constant feedback for us in terms of the monitoring in the morning, and then the GPS numbers in terms of the load that they've done through a training session, how far they've run during the week, what the high-speed meterage has been, and then the analysis in terms of after a game as well, in terms of carries, tackles, missed tackles, meters run, all that sort of stuff, and you put that together as a matrix, and you have a look at it, and it gives you a bit of a feel about how you think a player has worked. And sometimes you watch the game, you don't realise until afterwards that how accurate a player has been, or actually how hard they've actually worked, because they haven't, like I've said before, they haven't been that person who's been the star of the game, because they haven't carried a huge amount, but their work rate's been absolutely phenomenal, and so you would use that to give you an indication, and perhaps would help you form an opinion in terms of making the final selection. I think when you're selecting a player, you want Two factors. It's obviously the individual brilliance that you're looking for a player, and at the very highest level, you're looking for X factor, players who can make a difference to performance and results. But ultimately it's about a team, and it's about fitting into the systems and structures and the cohesion between a team. And if the team plays well and there's a performance, then the individuals play well. And for us, on a couple of occasions, we've spoken about winning versus performance, and for us, on a couple of occasions, the result has been the most important thing, because it's about confidence, it's about momentum, and then the performance comes afterwards, and we've been able to achieve both. And we've felt as a group and as a team that collectively, the more time that we've spent together, we've just got better and stronger as this tour's gone on. We've tried to pick players on this tour, based on form, and we've tried to deliver a message to the squad that there's still an opportunity later on the tour. And the message on Tuesday night to the players for the Chiefs game was, we haven't made a final decision in terms of selection. Go out there, perform, make an impact, and make us, think about you in terms of your performance before we select the team the following day. And a couple of players were able to do that. So it's just trying to deliver consistent messages to the player, and making sure that it's not just talk, and that we're delivering on what we say, because that's pretty important, that the players believe you and they trust you, that you're actually going to follow through, and it's just not white noise in terms of not being authentic in what you do tell the players. But probably from the start of the tour, if I looked at the start of the tour and look now at the first test, there's probably, I'd say, half the team would be a little bit different to what I had initially imagined, what the selection would be for the first test. And I think that's brilliant. I mean, because you've come in there with an open mind, you haven't been prescriptive, and players have taken their opportunities, taken their chances, and have been able to play their way into the first test. I think it's a fully collective unit of coaches in regard to the decision making. We sit down and we talk about training, and for me it's about planning training, but giving them the opportunity as coaches to have use their skill and knowledge and the aspects of training that they're taking and leading in that regard. And in terms of selection, we have some lively debates, and you want lively debates, but at the end of the day it becomes a collective. It's not about me having the final say, it's not about me saying, no, I'm not going to select that player. It's about, I'd like to think that if they feel strongly about a certain position or a player or a selection, that they're able to bring that to the table and discuss that, and we have a debate where, once the final decision's made, it's a collective agreement on all the coaches, and that's really important. The players feel that they can have that input, and to do that, and that their voice has been heard as well. And so it's definitely a collaboration of minds in terms of what we all agree, the way that things should operate in terms of training and for selection too. There wouldn't be many differences of opinion, and the opinions are, it's one or the other. It's kind of, when we were selecting the team, we spoke about potentially one player versus the other, and then one player might have started or the other may have been on the bench, and there was one or two differences, but not strong differences, just what the initial thoughts were. And so normally when you at this level, when you come to it, there's often a strong consensus, and you'd get one or two slightly different opinions, and it's about discussing that. What are the options, what are the alternatives, talking about impact coming off the bench and potential injuries, and how you're going to cope with that. And then eventually, with that discussion, hopefully making what you all think is the right decision in terms of selection. But the message to everyone is that at the end of the day, selection's just a matter of opinion. That's all it is, and everyone has a different opinion. But hopefully, with the discussion, we get as close as we possibly can to getting the selections right. I think probably the squad now for the first test would be about half of them would have been different to what I would have initially imagined. And it's been great to see that players have taken the opportunities, have played themselves into the first test selection. And we'd like to think that that first test team has picked on form. You know, players that have played particularly well and have done well. The hardest thing about a Lions tour is that you sometimes get one chance or two chances, and you need a little bit of luck. And the team that you're playing in, you know, happens to play well and wins. You know, that gives you sometimes a greater opportunity, and or another player isn't selected because he's injured or whatever, or you're changing some combination. So, you know, it's tough on the players, and sometimes you've got to be in the right place at the right time. And for us, I think we'd like to think that we've been consistent in the way that we've selected players. Have definitely played the way in on tour. But the message to the rest of the squad is that you might have not been selected for the first test, but looking back in 2013, I think between the first and third test, there'd been something like 9 different, positional changes because of either injury or form. And so for those other players that have missed out on the first test, they get a chance to play against the Hurricanes, to hopefully play well and put themselves into contention for the second test. And you never know what's going to happen with injuries, or as selectors, we change our mind and want to look for different combinations as well.